was good actually to have it smaller this year, because it's just getting established. Okay. Welcome, everybody, for the business meeting, August 16th, 2023. It's 9 a.m., Curry County Board of Commissioners. I'm going to call this meeting to order, and we're going to stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Larry, I forgot to ask you this morning, did you want to fill out a public comment, or you're just listening?
I just listened.
Okay, all right. So next on the agenda is amendments and approval of the agenda.
I have one proposed amendment. The Moss Adams, let's see, this is number 5C.
Yep.
Should be removed. We are not going to be doing that audit
Not gonna be.
presentation today.
No discussion or anything?
No.
Okay,
Let's see.
C, cross it off.
Oops, that's not the right agenda.
Not having the Moss Adams presentation?
We are not having the Moss Adams presentation.
Okay.
Why do I not have
And
that?
this was a new thing.
Yeah, and I'd like to add that
Okay.
if we can.
It was on the desk when we all came in.
Yeah, that is you guys got the email from, Jackson County, regarding a resolution that they recently did regarding Measure 110. And this is a resolution from us that would, essentially do the same thing. And I'd like to discuss it if we can.
Let's just put it in C.
Let's put it in there in 5C.
Yeah, we
That's
got a
perfect.
spot.
Got a spot.
Resolution, Measure 110 resolution. Very good. Any other amendments? If there is no more, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll move to approve the agenda as amended.
And I'll second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. No discussion, I don't think. Hearing none, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
I say yes, motion carries 3-0. Public comments? Nobody filled out a slip, so we not have any public comments. Next thing is the consent agenda. A through M, it's quite a big, long consent agenda. But I'll entertain a motion to approve that.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any discussion on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just, the
Starts with,
brain's not working.
it's all right.
We talked about this yesterday.
It doesn't get better.
Yeah, probably. The, code enforcement job descriptions. Did they make it in?
They're in here, yeah.
Oh.
They're further down.
Okay, I didn't see them in here. Copy that. Oh,
Everybody got their,
got it. Okay, those are under action items.
Right.
Okay. No further discussion?
okay. So we got a motion and a second, discussion, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0.
On that, can you pause real quick?
Yep.
And sign this so that.
Yep, that's right. This is for Dave Denny, he's
This is for
busy.
lipstick.
Okay,
You can get that sent off.
Can't find that agenda. I've got all this.
You want this my agenda?
okay.
Just-
There you go, Dave.
It's okay, we'll put it right here.
Thank you.
Okay, 5A is request for proposal digital assets.
Good
Hi, Miranda.
morning. Miranda Plaggy with Economic Development. So this is a list of the sites that we are sort of
Okay.
proposing.
Ooh,
No,
Oh, that's it, Miranda.
I know. I'll hit my head. There you go. Alrighty. So It's sort of twofold. This proposal, what we're needing is really to sort of build back up our digital library that we lost
Oh, okay.
during the hack. We're coming up on a new year of advertising, and we certainly need those assets. Right now, we're sort of relying on things like Shutterstock, where we don't hold the rights to those photos, so we can only use them on a limited basis. So what we're really trying to do is sort of build up our program. This will be sort of an investment for us in the long term. Those photos that we collect, video, drone, and such, will sit on a digital asset management system, which is called a DAM. And we haven't identified that, but I've narrowed it down to a few. And that'll allow partners, for instance, like even our county parks, to upload photos and use for their purposes as well. So this is something that will sort of reach across our network and allow all of our tourism partners to actually use those photos for advertising purposes. The RFP, some of the things that we're sort of asking for are things like being licensed within the county, whether that's with the county or in one of the municipalities. We just want to make sure that you're doing business honorably, of course. And then we're making sure that they have the correct licenses for drones as well. So we do require that they have that FAA license. We want to make sure that we're doing everything sort of on the up and up, and that they're also doing that. And you know, this to me, I think is pretty exciting because it is also a deliverable within our management plan. So this was something that we identified during that whole process of going through with our network partners and stuff, that hey, this would be a useful tool. It just happens to be a little more. We're needing it now just a little bit quicker.
You said, Miranda, earlier you have to have a license for that drone?
Yes, you
Okay.
do. You do.
I do.
And it's because of airspace.
Okay.
You have to sort of go by the same laws that everyone abides by when it comes to airspace. So, for instance, we couldn't do a drone over the courthouse because that airspace is of the sheriff. So that's
Okay.
something that, you know, those are things that you find out as you get into those programs.
And within a certain space of the airport, you gotta
Airport,
get
yep.
permissions, notifications, etc.
Yeah, my son is a drone pilot for Woodburn PD, and he had to go through like a pilot class.
Okay.
Yeah.
To learn how to fly that thing.
Okay.
Most of them don't even allow you to operate within a range of the airport unless you have your credentials.
Yes,
Like
some
the DJ.
we do have a lot of hobbyists, so I think this is also an opportunity to sort of educate folks that, you know, that is a requirement. I would imagine at some point, you know, there will be some sort of enforcement, and I don't think that would come from us, but state parks, for instance, would be something that they would enforce that.
We were at Harris Beach yesterday, and the kids, the junior lifeguard kids, were all waving, and I was out in the shore break, and I turned around and looked, and there was a drone up there, and I don't know if it was related to us but I did see one that Damian Hawthorne did for the Port Orford
Yeah,
junior lifeguard thing, and
you know, I've
it
caught a
was
few of his
fantastic.
videos that he's doing there for Redfish and his dad.
Yeah.
They're really great. So I think that's sort of if you see some of the footage that is out there, it sort of gives us a great opportunity to, let people know who we are. You know, we're sort of a destination that's really
Yeah.
powered by nature, which is sort of the term that we use.
Any questions for Miranda, gentlemen?
So just looking for just permission to
Approval, right? Yeah.
yes.
So we have a motion, I'll entertain a motion to approve the RFP for digital assets.
I'll move to approve the RFP for digital assets.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor say yes.
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 I say yes, motion carries 3-0.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Next
Thank
up,
you, Miranda.
next up is still you though, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, Travel Oregon competitive grants application, yeah.
Yeah, so this is, again, we're just looking for permission to apply to this competitive grant that has been released by Travel Oregon. Some of the things that they call for within that grant is inclusivity and also accessibility. So they're really looking for projects that are going to touch base on that. And we've been sort of biting at the bit to work with this company called Will the World. They've worked with several partners here on the coast. And what they do is they come in and they sort of give us an assessment. Now, it's not sort of a judging assessment. They're just saying, hey, by the way, for instance, as an example they gave us, something was in front of, like a trash can in front of a doorway or near the door, and it would cause an issue for someone who's with the wheelchair. And they just say, hey, by the way, did you know that this might, you know.
An accessibility is.
It is an accessibility assessment.
Yep.
So what we're doing is, and what we're hoping to do, is do an accessibility assessment of 21 properties. And that would be within the unincorporated. So we want to touch base on all of our unincorporated lodging facilities, the ones that want to participate. We're not going to, of course, force anyone to participate.
Yep.
But this is going to be an opportunity to also set yourself apart from the rest of the state. It's sort of an ability to sort of see that marketing gap. But what it does is it also sort of, it allows us to know what's accessible. To be honest, you know, someone who doesn't really need any sort of accessibility, I don't know how to sort of market that, and I don't know who's really accessible. So this will give us an opportunity to sort of identify those needs. Some of the things that we're excited about, because they're also going to touch base on our trail systems, our beach access, some of our museums, places to go, for instance, restaurants, things of that nature. Again, it'll give us an opportunity to say where we can grow, and then in the future allow us to pinpoint those infrastructure needs in further grants. So it's pretty exciting for us as a baby DMO, Destination Management Organization in the state. We're sort of excited to put our hat into this project. Any
Excellent.
questions?
Very good.
Oh, also, some of the things that we had early identified, and I think will also benefit locals. I think a good destination, it's not just benefiting tourists, it's also locals, is some of our beach access, right? It's very difficult for anyone on two legs to get down to some of our beaches, let alone wheelchairs. So some of the things we would like to do are Moby mats. And Moby mats are something that roll out, and you, at the end of the summer, can roll them back and store them. But it allows people with wheelchairs to get back onto the beach and sort of enjoy the beach as well. And we're also considering kiosks with beach wheelchairs, which also has been done in Lincoln City. So we have some programs that we can model as well.
Been looking at those. They kid in our church is in a wheelchair, and those big wheels. You can
Yeah,
just
the
on
big wheels, yep.
In the sand, and
Yeah, they're extremely fun for a lot of folks, and we've seen some things that we can do better and things that we can certainly take advantage of.
Yep. What I noticed at like Harris Beach, it's hard to keep it up to snuff because the tides mess with your entrance. It's either too high, too low, in and out. Yeah. So it'd be some work to keep it.
Absolutely, it is, and it's
accessible.
going to take partnership. That's some
Yeah.
of the things that we've talked about. Is that it's something that we couldn't do on our own. We would have to partner with for
State
instance,
parks.
like state parks, or the City of Gold Beach, or Beachfront Inn. Some of those access points that are a little easier to get to, but would require some help.
All right, gentlemen. Any questions on the approval to apply for 2023 to 2025 competitive grants application?
I'll move to approve the application for the 2023-2025 competitive grants application for Curry Coast.
I'll
All right.
second it.
Got a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks,
Thank
Miranda.
you, Miranda.
Next on the agenda is the new positions.
Actually, it's 5C.
Oh, 5C, I'm sorry. Thanks, Ted, we brought that back. Measure 110.
So I'll start by addressing this. So we all got the email from Jackson County and a resolution to repeal Measure 110. these resolutions, they're just a piece of paper, and oftentimes they're just symbolistic, but this is a little bit different because in talking at County College with other county commissioners and some of the emails that have been shared back and forth with other counties regarding Measure 110, what I'm sensing, what I'm picking up from everyone is Measure 110 is having such a negative impact across this state that, and the negative impact is socially, it's economic, the ripple effects of Measure 110 touch the homeless community, they touch housing, they touch so many different elements of our community that every county is struggling with the effects of Measure 110. And this is really the beginning of counties joining together to make an effort to convince the leadership of this state to repeal this measure so that we can get back to actually helping people. And I spoke with Association of Counties a couple of days ago regarding this, and there's a strong enough movement, and we're this is way too early, but I could actually envision and being part of putting this together, all the commissioners going to the state capitol, standing on the steps and demanding a repeal of this measure, all because of the many negative elements that it impacts our community with. Now, we have the resolution up on the screen, and I'm not going to go through reading the entire thing. It's somewhat lengthy, but it addresses each of the elements that all of our communities across the state are facing. And what I am going to do is fast forward to the end of this resolution, because the real key is the therefore at the end. And number one is the provisions enacted pursuant to Oregon Ballot Measure 110 need to be repealed to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. And the Oregon legislation must immediately take any and all actions necessary to repeal the provisions enacted pursuant to Oregon Ballot Measure 110. And this closely mirrors the resolution from Jackson County with very subtle changes and differences in it. But I'm going to ask you guys to join me in signing this and sending it out to all of the other commissioners across the state and asking them to join us as well.
Complete agreement.
Yeah, I sent this to Ted last week, asking for the same thing, so you're not gonna get any disagreement from me,
No.
obviously. I do think, for the public's sake, I think it's worth reading the whereas.
Oh, 100%, 100%.
So, there's a lot of extremely important information in here supporting why it's necessary to repeal 110. So, I mean, I don't know if you guys want to, if we want to read it, but I definitely,
If you want me to, I'll read it.
I think it's worth reading.
You want to read it?
Yeah, let's read it.
Okay. Want me to, or?
You guys want to read it in unison? Or you want to flip for it?
Whereas Oregon Ballot Measure 110, the Drug Addiction Treatment and Recovery Act, was passed in 2020 with the promise of reducing crime and improving public safety and saving lives, and whereas the evidence shows that Measure 110 has had the opposite effect, leading to an increase in overdose deaths, criminal activity, public nuisance, and a diminished quality of life for the citizens of Oregon, and whereas since Measure 110 was passed, there has been a dramatic increase in overdose deaths in Oregon. In 2020, there were 585 overdose deaths. In 2021, that number increased to 917. As of March 8th, 2023, there have been 1,161 overdose deaths confirmed in Oregon in 2022, more than doubling the number experienced just 2 years prior. And whereas the Oregon Health Authority's Oregon Overdose Prevention Dashboard found online shows an increase in drug overdose deaths from 2020 to 2021. And whereas Measure 110's enforcement provisions have proven ineffectual. As of June 30th, 2023, of the 5,299 tickets filed in Oregon Circuit Court since Measure 110 went into effect, more than 3/5 resulted in a recipient failing to pay and facing no further penalties, according to the Oregon Judicial Department found online regarding Class E violations. Most of the rest of the tickets were dismissed or are pending. The state audit found that during its first 15 months in operation, the treatment referral hotline received just 119 calls at a cost to the state of $7,000 per call. Whereas the implementation of Measure 110 has reduced the deterrent effect of drug laws, making it more likely that people would use drugs. Currently, the threat of arrest and prosecution serves as a deterrent to some people from using hard drugs. Measure 110 has removed this deterrent, making it more likely that people would use those drugs. And whereas increased hard drug use can lead to numerous public health issues, including but not limited to human immunodeficiency virus, HIV, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, AIDS, hepatitis C, and mental health problems. These irrefutable issues place a strain on Oregon's healthcare system and make it more difficult and in some cases impossible to provide care for people who need it. And whereas the results of Measure 110 as implemented has also made it more likely that people will commit property crimes, a study by the National Institute on Drug Abuse found that drug users are more likely to commit property crimes than non-drug users. The study found that drug users are 2.5 times more likely to commit burglary, 2 times more likely to commit larceny, and 1.5 times more likely to commit motor vehicle theft. And whereas drug users are also more likely to be involved in drug trafficking, a study by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crimes found that drug users are 2.5 times more likely to be involved in drug trafficking than non-drug users. And whereas the cost of criminal activity associated with drug use is significant, a study by the RAND Corporation found that drug use costs the United States $1 trillion per year in crimes, health care, and lost productivity. The National Institute on Drug Abuse estimates that drug use contributes to 1 in 5 violent crimes and 1 in 7 property crimes. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention estimates that drug use costs the United States $74 billion per year in healthcare costs. And whereas members of law enforcement and the criminal justice system have reported that the implementation of Measure 110 has made it more difficult to motivate drug users to enter treatment, the threat of arrest and prosecution can be a motivating factor for people to enter treatment. However, Measure 110 has removed this motivating factor, making it more likely that people would continue to use drugs and not seek treatment. This is especially true for people who are struggling with addiction and who may need the structure and support of a treatment court or in-custody treatment program. And whereas the implementation of Measure 110 has reduced the quality of life for residents, hard drug use is often associated with public nuisance behaviors such as loitering, littering, aggressive panhandling, and increased criminal activity, which has led to a diminished ability of the public to safely use parks and other public spaces inhabited by drug users. And whereas the implementation of Measure 110 has led to an increase in environmental damage, unauthorized camping, and dumping of garbage and human waste on land and waterways has increased since the passage of Measure 110, which has led to pollution of those waterways, contamination of state soil, and the spread of disease. And whereas the implementation of Measure 110 has diverted marijuana tax revenue from counties, which has led to a loss of funding for essential services such as law enforcement, education, and public health. In 2021, counties lost an estimated $50 million in marijuana tax revenue due to Measure 110. Curry County was especially impacted as it was unable to fully fund its public and mental health services as a direct result of the measure. And whereas the implementation of Measure 110 has made Oregon a destination for hard drug users from other states. This is because Oregon is one of the few states where hard drug possession is decriminalized. This has led to an increase in the number of hard drug users in Oregon, which in turn has put a strain on Oregon's resources and has made it more difficult to address the drug overdose crisis. And whereas we, the Curry County Board of Commissioners believe that the derogatory effects and long-term threats to the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Curry County by Measure 110 should be acknowledged and that Measure 110 should be repealed. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners for Curry County that the provisions enacted pursuant to Oregon Ballot Measure 110 need to be repealed to protect the public health, safety, and welfare, and the Oregon legislature must immediately take any and all actions necessary to repeal the provisions enacted pursuant to Oregon Ballot Measure 110.
Very good.
So I think this is one of those a vital stance to take. It wasn't long ago, a few years ago, when I stood up here and challenged the commissioners that no commissioner themselves has much power, right? But you do have influence, and to utilize the influence at that time was to utilize your influence to join other commissioners together to pull back on some of the COVID restrictions to our local businesses, etc. And in this case, using the influence to put pressure on legislation to make the right decision and repeal this Measure 110. So I'm 100% in support. This is I think, something we're bound to do.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I like Brad's, when he said, let's all the commissioners meet on the front steps of the Capitol building.
yeah,
That would make somebody take notice. I mean,
certainly would.
if even if it 2/3 of all the commissioners
And I would encourage also
Boards.
city council members to
Yeah.
explore adopting these resolutions as well.
Well, I think this is the beginning of a movement to, by the leadership in this state to move in that direction. And I want to be in the forefront of it. I want to be in the beginning of it. And I want to help lead that fight against it. I know Sheriff Ward's here. Maybe he'd like to speak about this for a minute.
Morning, gentlemen. Sheriff Ward, Curry County Sheriff's Office. As your sheriff of our county, it has been very difficult since Measure 110 has taken over. And it was put into place. We were against this right from the start. I have not heard from one sheriff that would support Measure 110, or any other chief of police or anybody that I've talked to in these conferences and things. This is a long time coming and trying to get this repealed. It's a financial problem when they take the money away from law enforcement to put it into programs. There's no programs that really exist. And I've been told by several people, even people that ran for governor, that there's millions and millions of dollars that are set aside from the marijuana tax money that law enforcement was getting, that we're no longer getting to support public safety. And it makes our job very difficult. And you're right, there has been a very dramatic increase in overdoses, deaths, and there is no teeth in this measure that for law enforcement to do their work. You say so many citations were issued. They don't respond to those. It's an E violation. There wasn't never an E violation. It was, D, A, B, C, and D, and it didn't fit into those, so they come up with an E violation, and it's less teeth to bite somebody for than a seatbelt ticket. And I'm pretty sure that OSSA, the State Sheriff's Association, would back this as well. I'd stand on that, in full uniform at the Capitol too, to support repealing this Measure 110. And I'm sure there's a lot of sheriffs that would do as well. But that's just my 2 cents on it. We need to do something to get rid of that 110. it's killing our county. It's killing everybody's county, and law enforcement and public safety. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Well, I'm ready to move
Okay.
to adopt. Do we have a resolution number?
Yep. Oh, no. But you could just read that, you could make that your motion, that left-hand
Okay.
corner, right?
I'll move to approve the resolution proclaiming Curry County's call for the repeal of the provisions enacted pursuant to Oregon Ballot Measure 110.
And I'll second that.
Okay. Got a motion and a second. All in favor say yes.
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 I say yes. Motion carries 3-0. So then that leaves, next up is the new positions, code enforcement officer and community resource officer.
And so this is the thing that we've been working on for a while to get code enforcement back up and running. We've got the job descriptions, they've been circulated, and I would ask for a motion to approve those if you guys have had a chance to look at them. We're basically gonna be doing, a couple of different things with the code enforcement. We're gonna have one that's focusing on our camping ordinance and those issues, not just specifically that, but also, you know, issues like abandoned vehicles and so forth. And then we're gonna have another one that's gonna be, well, at this point, working on still dealing with animal control to the extent that we have to do that. And, although we're looking at some other options for that. And this person will be doing the building and planning type of enforcement, which will be welcomed.
So I wanna talk about this and
Okay.
the importance of this to the community. You know, we had issues with code enforcement in terms of their effectiveness, their training, and their ability to carry out their duties. So we put a pause on it, and now we are, after restructuring it, ready to put it back into place in a more effective manner. And one of these positions, which is the code enforcement officer that will be dealing with the camping ordinance that we recently put into place, that is a really critical position. And the first thing I want to address is the camping ordinance in this particular position. It's not going to solve the community's homeless problems. It's not going to do that. This isn't a fix-all for a problem that's really a problem in society. But what this is going to do is it's going to help deal with the individual problems that some of our community members have in dealing with the issues surrounding homelessness and camping. And it's going to give another tool to this county. It's going to give another tool to the Sheriff's Department, and it's going to help address some of the problems that every community faces across Oregon, especially rural Oregon. And I will be very much involved in the selection process for this person, because if we can find the right person in our community, and they're out there, the person with the right life experiences to come into this position and be a good problem solver, and be diligent in their enforcement of our ordinance, as well as compassionate with the needs of the people involved in this, I think it will be extremely effective. Other programs like this have been effective, and I think this has a lot of potential. And as always, I'm confident the three of us, hey, if this doesn't work, we'll reevaluate it. We'll make changes. I very much appreciate the professionalism of what we have going right now. You know, when we created that ordinance, I mean, Jay was the first one to say it. We want community input. We want to know what's working and not working, and we're willing to make adjustments accordingly. And it is, of course, the same with this position, but I am very confident if we can find the right person and get them in there, get them trained, and get them out there working on these issues, it will be effective. And I also want to say that we are gonna pull in the other resources of this county to help, and that includes the road department. And every other branch of this county, we all need to come together and work together to face the issues facing this community right now.
Does that sound like a motion to me? You know, when I think of what you said, Brad, about camping and all that stuff, repealing Measure 110 will do a lot more, you know, it'll help with everything. It'll help with our code enforcement, because we won't be a destination state for stupidity and drugs and all that goes along with it.
Well, this is the homeless issue, the drug issue, the culture that has been created from this. This is a society issue. This is an issue that's, you know, this ordinance isn't going to change any of that. It's a society issue. And, you know, I recall my old job as a police officer, when I would arrive at the scene of a terrible accident or a critical incident, and I would run to help an individual that had a serious head injury and internal bleeding and compound fractures, and they would be severely injured, and I would run to them and I would start to help them. And a lot of times, many times, they would tell me, "Leave me alone. I'm fine. I don't need help." But they simply were not in a position to make that decision. They weren't in the right frame of mind. And if we didn't help them, they would die. So what's the difference between an individual that's walking in our community right now, that's using fentanyl every day, that has such a desire to continue the addictions of that drug, and they've been brought back to life with Narcan multiple times? What's the difference between the two? We have to help those people. They're not in the right frame of mind to say, "I don't need help." They need help. And eventually, as a society, we have to step in, and just like I did with those accident victims, we have to make them go.
Yeah, and you have to have the ability to do that through,
And we do.
not saying everything's okay. It has changed. It's flip-flop from when I was growing up here in Brookings. If you got caught with drugs, you got thrown in jail. You were, you know, but now if you're, the young kids, they can do drugs, but boy, if they get caught with a beer, oh my goodness, you throw the book at them. And it's just, like John was saying, that E on the bad list, they don't have to pay it. John Ensley told me one time, he took me back home to Brookings, I rode with him, and he said, they know that, they don't have to pay the fine, so there's no consequence.
Well, what message do we send to a 17-year-old that's got a beer and a barbless, or a hook with barbs in it, that's fishing on the river, and he's got some meth and some fentanyl and heroin in his pocket, and we contact him to enforce the law? The beer and the fishing is the bigger violation. What message are we sending there?
It's a bizarro world.
Doesn't make any sense.
No. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to, I'll approve the proposed job descriptions for salary classifications prior to their adoption with code enforcement. Is there two agenda items on this? No, the second is the reading of the,
Right.
okay. I'll entertain that motion.
I'll move to approve the proposed job descriptions for code enforcement officer and community resource officer.
All right,
Second.
got a motion and a second. All in favor say yes.
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 I say yes, motion carries 2-0.
Next item is the third reading of the ordinance restricting the retail sale of animals after the changes discussed and approved by the commissioners at the last meeting. That ordinance was submitted to the public, and so this serves as that third and final reading. And at this time, then we can, I believe, I just need to approve the proposed ordinance and adopt Article 4, Division 3 of the County Code.
So before we do this, I have to address the ethic-related issues associated with this ordinance that we're all very aware of, being my wife is the executive director of the South Coast Humane Society. And an individual who owns the pet store has taken to social media and made several misleading and lies about this ordinance and about me and about Jennifer. So as a result of that, I need to address it. So as you recall at the last meeting, I made you aware that there was social media comments being made regarding this ordinance. Those comments contain misinformation, inferring there was a conflict because my wife worked at the South Coast Humane Society. And if you recall, I addressed the conflict by explaining two questions. One, could I vote? And then the other was, should I vote?
I would want to just interject and say, you addressed the potential conflict.
The potential
Because whenever anyone asserts the possibility of a conflict, that would raise it to the level of a potential conflict, which bears acknowledgement and discussion.
So, and in fact, if you remember, I even asked Ted
Yeah.
to put his legal hat on and give me an opinion about that, and he said it was not an ethic violation, and I could certainly vote on it. So, this ordinance does not prevent any pet store or breeder from selling puppies. It prevents the sale of dogs from a commercial broker or intermediary between the original breeder and a retail establishment. The reason for this is that, generally speaking, brokers sell puppies sourced from unethical and frankly inhumane situations. I speak for the board in saying that there was not and will never be our intention to prevent the humane sale of animals in Curry County. That being said, I wish to declare a potential conflict of interest regarding this item, specifically because of the accusations made on social media. Although not an actual tangible conflict of interest, I feel that it is important to clarify some relevant information surrounding my wife's employment by South Coast Humane Society and how that could appear to be affected by the message of this ordinance. A pet store, especially one that offers specialty animals or purebred puppies, is a fundamentally different business model than an animal rescue or humane society. There are two different markets for the two. Usually, if you're looking for a specific breed of dog, you find those at a breeder or at a pet store and not necessarily at a humane society. I would like to be clear and make it clear that there is no nexus between this ordinance and South Coast Humane Society. It is not possible to conceive that a humane society somehow will end up benefiting financially due to this ordinance. But even if that somehow happens, my wife's salary will not be affected because her pay is set by the South Coast Humane Society Board and not based on revenue, consignment, or any other changeable factor. It remains the same regardless of any increase or decrease in business. And the person who posted the information on social media regarding the financial implications of this, they made statements. One of those statements was that the board of directors made $350,000 each a year. That's not true.
I wouldn't think so.
They don't make any money. They are not paid or compensated in any way. In fact, a lot of them lose money because they contribute their own finances to it. They said that my wife made over $100,000 a year tax-free because it was a nonprofit. Not true. Absolutely Not true. I know because I pay the taxes. They also said Ted was the vice president right now. He's a sitting vice president of the Humane Society. That's not true. So I understand why that perception is out there, because when misinformation is spread like that, that's going to happen. And I will also say that I will always do everything I can to advocate for the humane treatment of animals. I always have and I always will. I will also do everything that I can to protect this community and our community members from any type of fraud or deception. And I believe this ordinance stands for both of those things. So because making a decision on this issue does not constitute a violation of ORS 244.040, nor is it in any way an actual conflict of interest as defined by ORS 244.020, I will be voting on this today.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the ordinance and and adopt Article 4, Division 3 of County Code.
I'll move to approve the ordinance adopting Article 4, Division 3 of County Code, the restriction of sale of animals in retail establishments.
And I'll second that motion.
Got a motion and a second. This is the third reading. All in favor say yes.
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 I say yes. Motion carries 3-0. Next on the agenda is elected official updates. We have an elected official getting up to update.
Morning, David Barnes, County Treasurer. I just want to say kudos on the resolution before about 110. I see that Coos Bay did it last night or the night before also. So it's a bad law and it impacts everybody badly. So I just want to say thank you on that. And on another note, we did have an interview with a potential deputy the other day, and we're waiting to hear back from him. So I just want to keep you all posted on that also.
Good.
And that's it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dave.
Elected official, Sheriff, you're an elected official. You already said something, but you can say something again because you got a spot here.
Wasn't prepared.
It's
to make a
okay.
statement, but I do appreciate you guys taking the step to, like Dave said, to try to help and repeal this Measure 110. We've been very busy lately with the fires, as you all know. A lot of things going on, a lot of things that the public wouldn't know that we do every day. I mean, we respond to burglaries. Actually, we got a guy just, I think last night, where a burglary in progress, got him, and he's in jail.
Good.
And with the unattended, the overdoses, and you name it, we're constantly busy from call to call to call. We do got our 3 deputies back from the academy that I got back from DPSST. We had sent them up there from the corrections side of our agency. They've been there, working there at least a couple of years. And we're gonna be replacing a couple corrections deputies. And then we'll probably take 2 more scheduled out of the corrections to fill a couple positions in the road in November to go into the academy. So a lot of things happening, so we're just trying to stay on top of it and do the best we can. Thank you.
Hey, I'd like to say one thing about the sheriff.
Okay.
Well, with regard to the fires that we've been dealing with, and my limited experience having gotten here, I was reminded, based on the Maui wildfires, and the fact that the communications infrastructure was down, not up. It was not properly maintained, and which contributed to the level of catastrophe in those fires. And I just want to point out that, if you recall, last winter, the sheriff brought that to our attention as well, because we had towers down because of weather actions, and we didn't have that's what we're working on, and we've been working on that with the road department and so forth, so that we can actually make sure that the people who are supposed to be responsible for maintaining that infrastructure
Can get
are
there.
doing it, and I just want to say that the sheriff was really fired up about it, and he should have been, because it's unacceptable that we didn't have that up to speed, and that we weren't on top of it, and that we had to go out. I mean, we had to basically, the sheriff had to reach out and find people to go up and address the issue, and that's not his role, to get the communications up. And I just want to say that we're committed to getting a program together, so we don't end up. I don't ever want to be like Lahaina. So I think, and we'll just all keep working together on that, and I think we're making headway.
Yeah, not having communications is a huge officer safety and a public safety risk. And so we have to have the equipment that, we can rely on, and therefore do our job as best we can.
And also the thing that Commissioner Alcorn's been talking about is on a couple of different levels, but having our departments be able to and be able and willing to respond in a proactive fashion when there's an emergency, and we're working on that. Not just the sheriff's office. We need all of our departments to do that, and be a part of that response, so that we can deliver the services that, they can't do their job if we're not doing ours. So that's.
And we're going to do that. We're going to accomplish that.
Thanks, John. Commissioner updates. Brad, you're first.
Yeah, so I want to talk about the fire situation here in Curry County. Everybody knows that we have the flat fire, of course, but we had a new fire over the weekend, and it took off quickly. But we also had a fire in South County, which was, I think it was on the 12th, and that was a structure fire. It was up on Crown Terrace, and it came in at a early morning hour when we didn't have a deputy on duty then. So of course our deputy was called out and started the process of responding. But in the meantime, the Brookings Police Department was able to get up to that house, and Sergeant Gab McVeigh and Canine Officer Pat Smith went there, and I saw the pictures of it, and they got there and they actually started fighting the fire. I mean, they got hoses, they were wetting down the adjacent buildings to keep the fire from spreading. And then, of course, Harbor Fire, Smith River, Winchuck, and Brookings Fire all responded. Those are all volunteers in our community. And they were up there and fought that fire, and were able to contain it to that one residence. And they did lose a structure, which was very unfortunate. But they kept it from being a bigger incident than there was. And then, of course, everybody knows the fire in Ophir, the Oak Flat, O'Brien Creek fire. That I went up there with Sheriff Ward to look at the aftermath of that fire the following day, and there was a residence there on Coy Creek Road, and that fire, it was very dry, a lot of fuel, and the wind was really pushing that fire. And it went right up to that Coy Creek Road. And we went to a residence there, and that fire actually caught the grass on fire and moved right up to the deck of that home. And there was a shed, an outbuilding, and it blistered the paint and broke a window on that shed. That's how close that fire was. Melted a dish, a television dish there. Gold Beach Fire got up there, again, all volunteers, got their equipment out, and were just inundated with smoke, overwhelmed, and fought that fire, protected that structure, and we did not lose a home there that day. So, again, these are volunteers, and they are incredible at what they do, and I want to share those close calls with the community, because without them, we would be in a much worse position public safety wise, as we otherwise are. And the other thing I want to say is a little bit about situational awareness and prevention. It's fire season. while this fire was going in central North County, there were 2 other fire calls that could have been significant in South County at the same time. And we've got to have situational awareness, we've got to be aware of our surroundings, and we've got to be responsible as a community to not do things that create any type of fire danger with the limited resources we have here. So the last thing I'll say about fire is Everbridge. If you're not on Everbridge, get on Everbridge. That's how you're going to be notified about emergencies. It's how you're going to be notified that a situation may be occurring close to you that you may not even be aware of. So get on Everbridge, and you can go to our Curry County Emergency Management page on the web, and there's some directions about how to do that. If for some reason you can't, just email me or email Ashley, and we'll connect you to that. The next thing I want to talk about is the North Bank Rogue River Slide. As everybody knows, that we've got a lane open there, and there's been discussion back and forth about fixing it. Well, I want everyone to know that on the 21st, in a few more days, we will start the work on that. Ted's been working diligently on that to make that happen, and that fix is going to be in place. We had a contractor that we were waiting on, and the flat fire actually helped facilitate that. It helped them move some things around in their schedule so we can get that done. So there will be a few delays, obviously, as we work on that road. I don't know if it's going to actually be closed, but it's going to create some delays. But we're going to get that fixed before the rain comes and we start to have more problems out there. So that's coming. The next issue I want to talk about is a meeting that I had at the road department. Ted and I spoke to the road department, and we discussed a couple things with them. One was them taking a more active role in our emergencies that we have here. And I don't know if the community quite understands this, but when we have a situation like a wildfire, it is the sheriff's responsibility to come in and do those evacuations. So our deputies are going door to door, and they're making people aware they need to go, they need to get out, and they're helping them do that, and really potentially saving lives of people that may need help to get out of that situation. So that's our deputies' role. Well, when that happens, we need road closed. We need roads blocked. We need signs put up. We need to protect the rest of the public from coming into those
Flaggers,
areas.
yeah.
We need flaggers. We need all of those things. And so I had a conversation about the road department. We're going to get some more signs. We're going to be more prepared. We're going to be better prepared to provide that element of public safety. And this community is going to see the road department being much more active involved in those emergency situations. The other thing is, we've been discussing this camping ordinance. We've been discussing community resource officer to help problem solve some of the issues that come with the issues of our homeless community. We've got some abandoned RVs on the side of the road. There's one up Jerry's Flat. I think there's one in Sixes. The sheriff's department comes out, our law enforcement comes out, we tag those, and then they're expensive to move. They're difficult to move. Well, I discussed the road department taking a much more active role in facilitating that. We need to deal with that problem, and the road department is a component to do that. So Ted and I had that conversation with them. So we're going to start with that vehicle up there on Jerry's Flat, and the road department's going to come out. We're going to get that thing moved, and hopefully we can cut cost as well. But we are going to deal with these problems in the community. The next thing I want to speak to quickly is one of the things I did when I ran for office was I explained to the community the need for us to be accessible. And I think I mean, I see you meeting with people regularly, John. I know Jay's active out in the community, attending meetings and whatnot. But I want to make sure that the community has access to come and speak to us, and it's not difficult or problematic for them. So on September 6th, BOC meeting, we're gonna do that down in Brookings in South County. so that our community will have an opportunity. Some of the folks that can't get here will have an opportunity to come and speak to us and share any concerns and meet with us if they need to. So I think it's good that we do that. And I'd also like to extend that to North County when we have the opportunity and have a meeting in Port Orford and get out and reach those folks and hear from them too. So I really appreciate you guys supporting that, and I think it's very important to our community that we do things like that. That's all I have.
All right, very good. Next up is myself, and I just wanted to reiterate a little bit about the fire. So it's interesting that you talked about fire, because last night Barbara Wilson called me. She's on the Brookings Volunteer Fire Board. And she said it's a great board, but they're just struggling with finances, of course, and being a special district, never enough money. Is there any way the county can come up with an opportunity for them to get more grants? And I don't know how we're, 'cause since we don't have like a county fire, but she just said what they're noticing, and I agree, is years ago, lots of the older guys that would retire Brookings wanted to be a fireman. They, maybe wanted to be a fireman as a kid, and you could volunteer, but that's that landscape is kind of changing, and we're not getting the volunteers. I think of Tom Kerr. He's older than I am, and he's just really invested in the Brookings volunteer fire department and has forever, and I see him still. And so just a shout out just if you ever wanted to be a volunteer fireman, now is the time to do it. And then the next thing I was going to talk about was junior lifeguard program. Curry County Aquatic Safety Director Luke Martinez. I helped him a couple days this week, and will tomorrow and Friday probably. But what he has established with the young kids in North Curry County, last week they had over 40 kids in Port Orford, and this week they got a little over 20, right at 20 with 25 with guards and aides in Brookings at Harris Beach, and he's just a gifted orator with the kids. He has them. Jay and I were talking earlier, when he says eyeballs, they say check, and they shut up and they look at him. And it started out Monday. There's a big surf this week in Brookings and all up and down the coast. And we got these kids all in wetsuits out in the water, and they're, and it's pounding pretty good. And I had, two little girls on one arm and on the other arm, and Luke had some, and we all, and their eyes were this big, and we're getting out there, and it's pounding, and we're getting into that water. By the end of the day, they are dolphin diving. The wave would be coming in. He teaches them how to respond in rough water. And yesterday afternoon, they were actually Jay's daughter, Chris L's daughter. They're little. How old's Kinsey? 10. I think Sarai's right around there. They were actually going out into the surf and rescuing one of the aides with their tube, and then doing a backstroke in, and from big eyes like this to, oh my goodness, what have I done? To they're just doing fantastic. They learned CPR yesterday. They all had a chance to physically get on a dummy, and so it's just a fantastic thing, because I watched yesterday, not just the kids, but I was just watching at the beach. There was little kids. I couldn't even see anybody watching them. There was, one little guy was probably, he was just big. He wandering down there, and no parent in sight. And so to learn this stuff, what they're learning is just fantastic. And Luke and his gang is just doing a fantastic job. Can't say enough good things about that. That's all I have. Jay?
Yeah, no, agreed. You know, Brad hit on a lot of the current events with public safety, fire prevention. Also, I do believe that there's going to be the fire warning's going to go up this weekend to no campfires upriver. So just a warning, heads up to people who plan on going camping. No more river bar fires going forward as we hit the height of our fire season, going into the height of our fire season. I guess one thing that I would just want to touch on, it's vital in a different matter, not public safety, things like that, but you know, our community works really hard to take advantage of economic development and community building type activities. And this last weekend was one of the larger ones with the Pirate Festival. And I just, you know, I don't think we just probably don't give enough credit or notice to the people who organize these events down at the port and in different locations along our coastline, and our economic development team goes down and participates in those events and assists them to get the word out and make these something for the community to look forward to. So I wanted to take just a second to recognize those guys and all the work that they put in to make sure that the community has fun events to attend. You know, outside of that, I'm really pleased that we did the 110 resolution.
Yep.
And we did it swiftly. There was very little question to be had in the magnitude of needing to do it. And so I thank this group for that, and Brad bringing that forward, Ted getting it prepared in a quick fashion, and then being open to amend the agenda to get it on the agenda. So, no, that's it. That's all I
Okay.
got.
Well, no executive session?
Nope.
Okay. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you for coming. 1 hour and 8 minutes.
If we're gonna talk,
Pretty good.
if we're gonna talk true accessibility.